people, if you are looking for a quality, vintage, modern, classic football shirt, get yourself over to okjersey.com. Selling shirts for around £15 and shipping to Europe with orders over £50. Make sure you treat yourself. Use the discount code BBN for 8% discount. Get yourself a new modern vintage Everton shirt. Treat yourself to something weird and wonderful. Treat yourself to a kid's kit, whatever you want. Make sure you get yourself over to OK Jersey. Sizing is literally on the website, just there. The price ranges are there. The sizing is there. You can pick your patches, your standards, your player numbers, the works. Treat yourself. Get yourself over to okjersey.com.
What's going on, everyone? It's Mike, it's John, back again. Right, it's a different setting. You can't quite see, but I am currently sitting in the car outside of services, so I have no idea how good this is. If I drop in and out, it might be that just John takes over at some point. But John, I'm going to leave it to you, mate. You start. You go.
Well, I think I speak for a lot of Evertonians this morning. Well, today, when I say it's worrying times, I think, mate, and the performances, you know, we spoke about in the match preview that we have put decent halves in this season. I thought yesterday wasn't one of them games, and I know you said before when we were speaking on the phone that, you know, Everton could have won the game if we take our chances, but I'm not being funny, mate. When you've got a striker starting a game like Beto, you're not going to win football matches, mate. You're not. And again, I'm probably going to have a little bit of a pop at David Moyes here. I think his in-game substitutions leave a lot to be desired. We're seeing that a lot more this season. I don't think he's bringing the right players on at the right time. And I said to you before, mate, Tyler Diblin and Adam Asnu must be shit in training if they can't get into that Everton team.
I think the biggest things for me last night was it didn't feel like a 3-0 game. You know, it didn't feel like a 3-0 game. I didn't think that Spurs blew us away. We actually had more possession than Spurs as well, which, you know, is usually a telltale sign that you yeah, but it doesn't usually matter for Everton. It's sort of, we tend to not have all the possession, but last night, you know, we had 12 shots and only 2 was on target. We conceded 3 goals out of, I think, 4 shots on target. I mean, it's embarrassing. The 2 goals for Van der Ven defensively are an absolute horror show. Like, if you watch them back, the back post headers, the running around Pickford and getting a header in unmarked in the middle of the 6-yard box. No one's defending the keeper. It was just really poor. And I think the other thing that I want to mention is you can see it. Like, you can see the frustration. You've got Enjoy working his socks off. You've got Grealish, to be fair, working his socks off, trying to get on the ball. But you can see the frustration. And I mentioned it last night. They pass around the 6-yard box. It's because they don't trust the person they're delivering the ball to. They don't trust that somebody else is going to be in that box. There was numerous times last night when the only person was in that box with 4 defenders from Tottenham was Better. And let's be realistic. He can't hold the ball up anywhere, so he ain't going to win it in the box. The chance after 3 minutes, ball comes across the box. Beto, it's just really poor. Grealish has a good effort, but ultimately it gets blocked. But Beto should be scoring. You know, the chance at the end, he has an overhead kick. I think Beto at about 60 minutes, he has an overhead kick. Don't get me wrong, Vicario makes a great save, but it comes off his shin. It's not clean. It's sort of like a reactionary effort, which I admire, but you're never going to win football matches if you haven't got clinical finishers. And I mentioned this before. I went on TalkSport at the start of the season and I was asked a question about, you know, expectations around Everton. And there was hope. There was, you know, we've got Jack Grealish, we've got Drewsbury Hall. We're going to play a different style of football. But ultimately, it's going to come down to if we can put the ball in the onion bag. And at the minute, we're not even. I'd actually say, in terms of being clinical, I actually think we were more clinical under David Moyes last season than we are this season.
Tottenham, for me, exploited Everton's weaknesses yesterday, and you mentioned it from the corners and the set ball and the dead ball situations that Tottenham had. They just exploited Everton's weaknesses. You know, Tottenham were taking corners in the warm-up, mate, before the game because they knew what Everton's weaknesses were. And then, you know, you speak about certain players there. For me, Dewsbury wasn't. I think it was probably his worst game for Everton yesterday. I don't think he'd done it. And listen, I'm not going to hold back. I didn't think Grealish done much. The centre forwards, we're not going to win anything, and we're not going to push up that league. And while we've got centre forwards like that, mate, and this is where our midfielders need to step up to the plate and start chipping in with goals. And I'm telling you now, I'd go as far as saying I'd put James Garner right back. I'd put Jake O'Brien in centre half with Michael Keane, because Tarkowski again yesterday was shocking. And I put I probably put Jake O'Brien and Tarkowski centre half only because I would play Michael Keane up front. He's not going to do it. We know that. But it's certainly not working with Beto. Beto started the game yesterday. He was shocking. You mentioned the chance he had after 3 minutes. Mate, Stevie Wonder puts that in. Stevie Wonder scores that. So for me, he's got to try something different. He's got to try and maybe put Ndiaye through the middle. He's got to put Ndiaye through the middle. We know Charlie Alcaraz has played up front in the past as well, mate. Not for us, but he has in the past. He needs to try something different because at the minute, mate, Everton are so predictable week in, week out with the team selections, the football we're playing, the tactics, the substitutions. We're so predictable, mate, that at the minute, anyone can beat Everton. And, you know, you mentioned about what you spoke about at the beginning of the season and the expectations. We done a video where we think Everton may finish, our predictions, and we're miles off it. We're miles off where me and you predicted Everton would finish this season. And until we get a decent striker in, mate, and we have to, it's a no-brainer that Everton need to go out in January and bring a striker in, and the fullbacks, don't start me on them, mate. As you said earlier on, there was one point Mikalenko was playing so far up the pitch, he was like a midfielder, come striker yesterday. And I don't know what Moyes is doing, I don't know what he's telling them, but Everton is so easy to read at the minute, and, you know, it's 1 win in 7 now, and, you know, people will probably have a pop at me for having a pop at David Moyes, but stats don't lie, mate. Stats don't lie. And I know you say it wasn't a 3-0 game. We got beat 3-0. And that's the whole top and bottom of it. We got beat 3-0. And it's 1 win in 7 under David Moyes. And the football is becoming turgid for me. And as I say it again, teams now, it's not hard to work out how Everton are going to play. It's not. It's so easy to read this team at the minute and the way they're playing. And as I said before, his in-game substitutions, mate, they don't make any difference whatsoever. And Tyler Dibblin, as I said, he must be shocking in training to not be able to get in this starting 11. We're not seeing anything of him for £42 million. Do
you know, that's what concerns me most, to be honest, because if this was the same squad of players, because my expectations would be lower, I'd possibly be okay with where we are, how the season started, you know, 3 wins, few draws, and the defeats. I probably would be okay. But, mate, the signings we made, you know, £40-odd million on Diblin, £30-odd million on Tieno Barry, who, by the way, look, I actually thought that was probably his best cameo when he come on off the bench last night. But ultimately, at that point, we were 2-0 down. So, you know, unless he's going to pull a rabbit out of his arse, it's not going to happen. But at least he did try. His first touch was decent. He got a couple of shots off, to be fair. He won us a couple of corners. No issue with that. No issue with that. And I think, you know, we'll talk about a point you made earlier, but you said off camera, it's probably time to give Tieno Barry 6 games now to try and cement a place and to try and start scoring goals. But you're right in what you were just saying. You know, we did lose 3-0 and we spent 100 and something million pound in the summer. And yet 90 of it is sitting on the bench. I just, the more I look at it, the more I sit there and think, was the summer just a waste of money? Was it players that were never going to be able to help us this season? Which was, in my mind, the idea of signing players that were ready-made, ready to go. That was what David Moyes wanted in America. And I looked last night multiple times on that pitch, on that bench, and I just thought, do you know what? There's 3 players out of those signings that I'm probably happy with, maybe 4, which is Alcaraz, Merlin Roll. I've been impressed with every time I've seen him. Don't get me wrong, he gave the ball away a couple of times last night, but he was prepared to get on the ball and try and carry it. He looked relatively quick. Dewsbury Hall, you're right. That wasn't his best game last night, but I don't think there'd be many Evertonians that wouldn't say that, you know, he's had a poor start. I don't think he has, but I certainly think he could have been better last night. And Grealish, who, to be honest, Grealish must be sitting there scratching his head. You know, he joined Everton with the hope that he could get back into the England team. Yet he's got nobody to give the ball to, and he's still, for me, not shooting enough. There was time and time again last night where Everton players could have had a shot from outside the box, and the only person willing to do it is James Garner. When you've got Dewsbury Hall, who used to score screamers for Leicester, you've got Jack Grealish, who used to score screamers for Aston Villa, you've got Enjoy that can do it, you've got even Michael Keane that can step onto it and do it. I'm starting to think it's a David Moyes style of play while we're trying to walk the ball into the net. And I know people will say, well, you can't put the ball in the box because Beto can't do anything. So shoot for 20 yards, because you're not going to score a goal unless you shoot. And last night, 12 shots, 2 on target. Mate, it wouldn't have mattered if it was 20 with 2 on target. At least we were trying to shoot. I was so disappointed with last night. So disappointed. And I'm disappointed with the season. You know what? I'll be straight, John. I'm disappointed with the criticism I've had on this channel. I'm disappointed saying to people, it doesn't feel to me like this is as good the start as people are making out. And yet I'm getting absolutely roasted. Yet we're sitting 14th in the league with a minus something goal difference, can't score goals. And all the teams that are below us are either newly promoted, excluding Sunderland. Leeds are on the same amount of points as us. Fulham, who have had a bad start to the season. This whole narrative that Everton have been good has been a myth this season. We could have lost. We could have threw 3 points away against Wolves. We threw 3 points away against West Ham. We drew against the Villa side that hadn't scored a goal and hadn't won a game. And at the start of the season, we went to newly promoted Leeds and put in an even worse performance than yesterday. So this whole start to the season's been good. He's great. And look, I've seen comments on Twitter. Oh, we're 6 points off fourth. I don't see us scoring a goal. So unless we're magically going to start scoring goals, it doesn't matter if we're 1 point off fourth, but we're still sitting 15th. We're not gonna get that point. We go to Sunderland Monday night. By the way, there is a watch along for that game, guys. So make sure you tune in. But ultimately, we're going to go there, and I think you're going to see me and John absolutely fuming for 97 minutes.
The thing is, mate, right, we've both been roasted in the comments for, being too negative. Now, I'm not being funny. There's a lot of Everton fans out there, and I'm going to say it how it is, and you can say what you want to me. I think you need to take the blue tinted glasses off and realise it for what it is, because what was an average start of the season has now become a poor start, in my opinion. So you need to take them glasses off and realise that everything isn't rosy. And people coming at me in the comments and on Twitter saying, we've brought a lot of new players in, it takes time to bed. Bullshit, it does, because you look at Sunderland, how many they brought in, and look how they're doing this season. They've come in, they've had players come in the summer, and they've hit the ground running. And I'll go even as far and say, I think when David Moyes come in last season, we were a better team then with the players that we had then than what we are now. And I'll say it now, because we're no better. This summer window hasn't improved Everton Football Club. No way, shape or form. And you said earlier on, it feels like we've wasted 90, 100 million pounds because we're not seeing the players who we've spent the money on. We're not seeing them step up to the plate. If Dibblin was doing it in training, he'd be starting 42 million pounds. Tierno Barry, I would give him a run. And I've been one of his biggest critics on this channel. I would give him a run of 6 games now and see what he can do, because it's no good giving him fits and starts. You're not going to get confidence. You're not going to get the eye for goal, and you're not going to score enough goals to warrant starting unless you're starting. And the only way you can do that is by getting minutes and starting from the off, because Beto will never be good enough as long as I've got a hole in my arse. That chance he missed yesterday was criminal, absolutely criminal. You've got to look at players. Merlin Roll, for me, he should be starting. And I'll go as far as saying again, I'm going to say it how it is. Idrissa Gana Gueye, it's catching up with him. Our big game players yesterday, and many times this season, our big game players haven't stepped up to the plate when we've needed them. And you say about the midfielders not shooting. We have to shoot. They've got to pull the trigger. Whether it's 20, 25 yards out, we have to be shooting because we can't rely on the strikers. You might get a dodgy handball. A defender might block it with his hands. You might get a corner from it. But when we're not shooting, mate, and we're trying to walk the ball, and as you said, we're not going to get enough points to get us up that table. And you look at the teams who are around us, mate. We spoke about this earlier on the phone. The teams who are in and around us now are better than us, mate. How many players out of this current Everton squad can you actually sit there and say, yeah, I'm excited to see them. I'm excited we have them at the football club. There's two or three. After you've spent all that money. We let that many players go in the summer. And for me, we look worse now than what we did when David Moyes come in.
I want to just talk about I'm not deflecting from the result, all right? And we've made it very clear. But I do want to talk about the refereeing performance because I thought it was a shocking performance. Now, look, I've seen our goal back. I actually agree. I agree it's offside. I think Njai goes around the back of him. He sort of leans into him. He does get him out of shape, and Grealish is standing right in front of him. So for me, I do think it's offside, and I do think that was the right call. But the time wasting from Spurs last night and the referee not to do anything about it from literally the 30th minute, I thought was pathetic last night. And look, all I'm saying it did was it stifled Everton trying to go forward. I'm not even saying we would have scored, but I just thought it was a poor refereeing performance. And the other thing I want to mention is I actually think we should have had a penalty last night because I have seen the Ghana guy incident back where he's pushed. He wins the header. He can run onto his knockdown himself, but he's completely pushed out the way. So for me, last night, I think Everton should have had a penalty. It wouldn't have made a difference. We wouldn't have won the game. I don't think we'd have got back into it. But I think we should have had a penalty. But I do think it was the right call on the offside. But I thought the referee had a really poor game last night in terms of his game management.
Right. Well, I've seen the stat on before, and Tottenham are the team who have wasted the most amount of time this season with not keeping the ball in play, not being quicker with their throw-ins, with their corners from the goalkeeper. But Everton need to grow a pair of balls now, mate, and they need to get in touch with the PGMOL and say they do not want him refereeing another Everton game because time and time again, even Neil Warnock has said he's got this vendetta against Everton, this referee. We all know it. It's blatantly obvious, and this is where Everton now need to grow a sack and just go to them and say, we do not want him refereeing any more of our games. Put a montage in of the decisions he's given against Everton. Yes, it was offside. Yes, we should have had a penalty. Doesn't change it, in my opinion. We were still shit. We were shocking. But we need to go now to the FA or whoever it may be and say we do not want that referee refereeing any more games for our football club because we know he's got something against us. He doesn't give us decisions. If that was Everton wasting that much time yesterday, he would have done something about it. So we need to do something about this referee and for him not to referee another Everton game.
Yeah, John. Look, I mean, this sounds awful, but I could probably end the debrief here because I'm fuming. But is there anything else you want to add, or is it because ultimately I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with the defeat and the manner of it. And I also can't see how we fix it. Like I just can't see how all of a sudden we're going to start scoring goals. I just don't see it. We go to a Sunderland side, which somebody would have to check it. But I know at one point they were second on Saturday. They might still be second. I don't know. But that's so disappointing. It's demoralising.
I just think, mate, you're saying there, what can we do to fix it? I don't know what we can do to fix it. Because as you say, we haven't got a goal scorer in the team. And it's the same football. And can you honestly sit there now and tell me that within a week, David Moyes is going to change how he sets this Everton team up? How he's going to get his in-game management better? I just don't see it. And listen, I've seen people putting on X that, it's work in progress and, it's going to take time. I don't see it getting better with this current squad of players, mate. And while we can't score goals, and while you've got a manager who is not picking the likes of Dibbling, not starting role, he has to start Barry. He's got to start Barry. He's been very critical of Beto, but yet he still starts him, which you know, Barry must be shit in training if that's the case, mate, because he has been very critical of Beto. He said it in the pre-season. He said it after a few games where he wants him to work harder. He wants him to you know, to get in the box more. You could turn around and say, are we playing to his strengths yet? Because we've seen it last season when we did play to his strengths. And listen, we know what Beto's strengths are. We've seen it. The ball through the middle where he can play off the defender's shoulder and he can run onto the ball. Defense splitting passes. Who have we got to do that? Who have we got who can make that pass for Beto? So, you know, we can sit here and we can slag Beto off all we want. And listen, I'm not trying to paper over the cracks by giving Beto any praise because I think he's a shit footballer. But we're not playing to his strengths, and his strengths are what we seen last season. And whether David Moyes will change it and try and get someone in the middle of the park who will make them passes, until he does that, mate, and until our midfielders are not scared to shoot, then it's going to be a slog. It's going to be a tough season up until January, I think, until we can address the problems which we have. And the problems we have, mate, are glaringly obvious. We need a right back. He needs to start Asnu over Mikalenko. We definitely need a striker. Until them problems are addressed, mate, I think it's going to be more or less the same as what we've seen yesterday, week in and week out.
Yeah, I didn't get the Mikalenko thing last night because he played him as an inverted left winger, and he sort of, I mean, he was popping up front. There was one ball in the first half where Pickford pings the ball and Mikalenko's running onto it. I mean, this is absolutely no disrespect to Mikalenko, but he's literally you've got both Mikalenko, who I think he's a borderline Premier League player, and you've got Beto, who I think is a borderline Premier League player, as your two most forward players at times last night. Like, are you joking? Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to be honest.
Well, Mikalenko's only doing what he was told by the manager, mate. He wouldn't have been that far up if he wasn't told to do that. And again, it's in-game tactics, it's in-game management for me. And yeah, I am having a pop at David Moyes. It leaves a lot to be desired. Some of the decisions I've seen from David Moyes this season, some of his substitutions, his in-game management, his team selections, starting 11, they're making me scratch my head, mate. And until he gets it right, and until he picks the players who should be playing, there's no way on God's given earth Adam Asnu is any worse than Mikalenko. There's no way Tyler Dibblin should be sitting on the bench, 42 million pounds. Again, he was an unused sub yesterday when we got beat 3-0. He needs to start Barry. As I said before, I've been one of his biggest critics. But we need to change it up, mate. We need to give the opposition something to think about, because week in, week out, as I said before, same team, same tactics, and was so easy to read, mate, for the opposition, for the other team to set up against us, which they find easy. You know, as I said before, they exploited our weaknesses yesterday, which was from the corners. We're weak at the back. He's got to do something to change it up, mate. Otherwise, it's going to be much of the same week in, week out.
Yeah. Right, let's leave it there. Guys, as you know, this is the only show that's available on streaming platforms, so go and download it, stream it. You've got the 3 sponsors there at the bottom, so go and show them some love. BBN is the code for both AVA and OK Jersey, and Flyers. Obviously, you know Flyers. We will be in there every home game. We have got our night with Neville South. Tickets are selling, so make sure you get yourself over to Eventbrite. The link is in the description. Go and treat yourself, because you know they will sell out at some point. So treat yourself before they do. But yeah, apart from that, guys, look, there'll be a news video in the week. Might be 2. But until then, I was going to say the toughies, but
can I just add something before we leave? And I know you openly admitted to me before you was one of the people who done it. But I think the people who clapped for Charleston on yesterday when we're 2-0 down need to have a long, hard look at yourselves. He's the opposition. Yeah, clap him at the end when he's walking off. But we're getting beat 2-0 with a shit performance, and you're clapping an opposition player on. I couldn't give a shit if it was Hamad Rodriguez. I couldn't give a shit if it was Duncan Ferguson over Charleston. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Fair enough. And wrist is slap, John. Guys, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. We will see you soon. Yeah, peace.